I just live life chaotically. I can't help it.
Thank you for joining the Escape With Me Book Club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, Danielle.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we are returning to Panem, a futuristic, dystopic United States. Published May 19, 2020, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to the beloved Hunger Games trilogy. It's time for the 10th annual Hunger Games, but this time we view the events through the eyes of a mentor, a young... My eyes don't agree that that's how you pronounce that name.
Coriolanus.
Say that one more time.
Coriolanus.
Coriolanus?
Yeah.
That name's not real. This doesn't exist.
I and a bunch of other people when this book came out, because also the movie instantly came out right after it, thought it was Cornelius because we just can't read in the original Hunger books for some reason.
Yeah, the dyslexic in me read Cornelius this entire book.
Yeah, it's Coriolanus.
Coriolanus Snow. This is why I wrote Snow in all of my notes. Could the key to understanding his actions with Katniss lay in his long-forgotten past, or was he simply always this way? Yes?
Nah, dude sucks. Boo.
So, background for this, I wasn't there. I mean, I was kind of there. The book came out and everyone was like, oh my goodness. So, what was that experience for you? Mockingjay came out 2010, right? 10 years later, we get a prequel.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy because nobody asked for it, which is how Suzanne Collins does her best work. She just shows up when she thinks that we should have something in our lives. Thank you for the one thing that came out of COVID, this book, and Tiger King. I will give credit to Tiger King. But they instantly made the movie the second this book came out, almost instantly started filming. I know it wasn't immediately, obviously, that timeline, but that's what it felt like because there was just so much hype and the other three had done so well that it just kind of all became a combo thing. The book and the movie for me are so intertwined, where the other ones, the original ones, obviously there was more spacing when the books were released and when the movies were made. It kind of gets all tangled. So it's very hard for me personally to take out the TikTok aspect of it. And all of the Snow thirst traps are very hard to unsee because the actor who plays him is, I guess, hot. Definitely is a serial killer psychopath character, but people just didn't care about that. They're like, nah, he's my man. So that's what I went through. There's no other way to explain that.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so it makes me double down. Snow is bad and is a villain, obviously.
Yeah.
And by the time he gets, 64 years later, whenever the first Hunger Games book.
Yeah.
Is my math? Yeah, no. It's like 64.
No, I did the math on that. So he's 18 when the 10th one came out. And so during the Hunger Games, which is the 74th, he would be 84.
Yeah, which is not that old, but the actor on that movie as well is so phenomenal that he could play, I don't know. I love him so much.
84 years old's getting pretty up there, which I do, okay, we'll get to it in a bit, but I do kind of wonder, you do see his mom really obviously getting dementia, and so I'm wondering by the time the Hunger Games happens and Catching Fire and Mockingjay, where he's just super, although he seems pretty together when he does see Katniss, so maybe not, but I was wondering if there were some dementia signs also there.
I mean, he was poisoning himself for 50 years, something like that crazy.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
But once again, I just kept a little spoiler-free bubble. All I know is every once in a while, I think I saw a post about how this book explains why he hates Katniss because of an ex-girlfriend or something.
I love that. I've seen that one, but I love that.
So that's all I kind of knew about it. I wasn't surprised that he was her mentor, but I don't necessarily think I knew that either. So once again, I read The Hunger Games after this one and the next one was published, so my understanding of what's going on was pretty limited. I barely understood the hype it was like a hype because it's like, whoa, this book came out. That's crazy. That was forever ago. But I mean, Uglies did it. Why not?
Yeah, their movie thing took forever.
Are there any other 2000s, 2010s dystopia popular YA novels that got a sequel? I feel like we kind of got that with Twilight when we got Edward's POV of Twilight and then the gender bent Twilight. Neither of those are sequels, but it's definitely bringing the property back up.
Oh, well, and technically these next two books are prequels.
Yeah.
So it's still in the same world, but I don't know. I'd do a sequel of The Hunger Games.
Maybe. I don't know.
But no, most of them kind of have one. Oh, it's not YA dystopian, but it is weird that The Handmaid's Tale came out, and then because of the show...
Oh yeah, that got a sequel.
Then she wrote The Testaments?
Yeah.
Yeah, which also is getting a show sequel. I literally can't think of anything besides that.
It just reminds me of in high school, we read Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, and then, what is it, like 60 years later, 70 years later, she wrote another book, and everyone was freaking out.
Oh.
But age level in this, we're continuing the YA. Content warning. Okay, we don't technically have genocide in this, so that's pretty good.
Hey, I've not had one of those in a while. All my picks are genocide. On accident.
But instead, we do have a lot of other stuff. Prostitution mentioned, child abuse, physical and neglect, cannibalism, gore, blood, graphic violence, murder, death of a parent, death of a spouse, death of a child, death of an animal, death during childbirth. If death can happen, death happens. Torture, illicit drug usage, animal abuse, and suicidal ideation. Well, we scampered through without the genocide.
Barely.
You know, Snow's not president yet.
He's just getting started. So in this one, Snow is a teenager and is not president. He's not in charge of anything.
Nope. He's not even a high school graduate, technically. They call it the academy, but it's high school.
Yeah, he's in a class.
Yeah, he basically has a senior project.
Yeah, his little group project. It's just murder.
But to judge a book by its cover on this one, so I thought going in that the girlfriend was going to be the songbird and he's the snake. But having read it, I do kind of love that, no, those are both Lucy. Lucy is both of those things. She is the songbird, but she is also the snake.
Yeah, but he's also the snake because he's the traitor and all that.
Yeah.
Backstabbing snake. But yeah, she loves snakes.
Yes, it's a whole thing.
It's very metaphorical.
It's a very important plot line that she befriends snakes and oh my goodness, one of them bit her. The human one.
Oh no.
But yeah, I'm really impressed with the dedication to birds in this series. Even the next one, The Sunrise on the Reaping, has a symbol of a bird on it.
Yeah, the author's very into birds, symbolism.
There are so many series that just decide halfway or for the new entries that it's going to be a completely different cover. And I haven't even seen a movie version of these covers, which I feel like books normally get. And like you said, it was a huge turnaround. Book came out, they started talking about movies and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. There's something about this iteration of the covers that I like a little bit more, but it's like the exact same thing. And so I couldn't tell you why. I don't know. I just really like it. And it's black and green, which is fun. Very representative of District 12. I like it. It's good. So this is the 10th Hunger Games ever. And so most of the people alive still remember the war between the districts and the capital. No one ever says why it happened, just that it did. And I have so many questions because of this book now. But they're trying to figure out a way to get the audience to want to watch the Hunger Games. Because the book points out it's pretty barbaric and it just reminds people of the war. And the districts don't want to watch because why would they want to watch their own being murdered? And then the capital people are either like, this is too boring, this has nothing to do with me, or they have a conscience and they're like, I don't want to watch children getting murdered. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole thing about the districts not even having TVs to watch it. So they're trying to figure out how to make people watch it because the games director is psychotic. So she is, where is her name?
I know, all the names are so crazy in this book. I mean, in the entire series, but...
Okay, Dr. Gall. Volumina Gall. which I feel like that has to be a little bit of a play on having the gall to do something. But anyway, she is the head game maker. She is the mastermind between the Capitol's Experimental Weapons Division, aka the mutants. She's the person that started all the mutant crap that we learn about during the Hunger Games trilogy. That just shows you where she's at mentally. She decides, hey, the tributes need mentors. We're going to have interviews with them so people get invested in these people. So we're going to have Capitol mentors to help them do the interview.
And who better than the high school students?
Yeah, and that's kind of all they're supposed to do for the senior project, but it keeps getting expanded because at one point they're coming up with ways to get people to watch, and you come to find out that this Hunger Games is where a lot of the staples come in. This is their first time having a host. This is the first time doing the interviews. This is the first time doing the gambling where there's odds placed on them. This is the first time that they have people donating gifts or money.
Getting the sponsors and stuff.
Yeah, having sponsors. So there's a lot of firsts in this, and there's a couple of other ones that I can't think of right off the top of my head, but I noticed them throughout. So they go from just prepping them to give an interview to the mentors also being in charge of the sponsorships and trying to encourage people to sponsor them. And then there's a dude on site that interviews them a bunch because the way the arena is originally set up is just this massive, probably football dome. And it's just been in the same place for the past 10 years. And so they have cameras, but in very, very specific areas. And they don't really have microphones. And it's a much, much more low budget Hunger Games. So it's really crazy to see where it started to, well, I mean, not even started, how it's progressed though over 65 Hunger Games. My goodness.
And most of those new betterments or whatever, the new improvements on the first 9 Hunger Games do come from Snow.
Yes.
And this is just some random high school kid.
Yeah.
His family used to be rich and popular, and then they kind of had a backslide. So he is keeping up appearances, but the war hit their family hard.
Yeah, he's real poor. Although, that being said, this book does a really good job of pointing out there's American poor where you absolutely are destitute. You might not even have a home of your own, but because there are institutions set up, it's a better, I don't even want to say better, but it's just a more, that's so weird to say, a more privileged poor, but it is. They have things set up, so he's getting food every day, even though he's super poor. They still have a lot of things that they benefit from, and then he goes out into the districts and he's like, oh, you guys don't even have running water. When you don't have food, you straight up starve. There's no anything helping with that. And so that was very interesting that they kind of went into that, which is, listening to his mental on that, where he's like, oh, well, they just don't have pride in their stuff. So they let all of this go to waste, when it's like, no, they never had it to begin with.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. But he is super poor. He's starving. He barely has a roof over his head. It's rough. But he's pretending that he doesn't. But yes, he comes up with a lot of these ideas. And which fair, young people are pretty good with just off the wall ideas. I mean, you come to find out the Hunger Games was created, quote unquote, dreamed up by the dean of the academy. And he just had an assignment in his class with Dr. Gall. And she was like, how do we punish people? And then he thought up the Hunger Games in a drunken stupor or whatever, and it got turned in. And so that was the Hunger Games. So technically this whole thing, most of the creations of this happened from people probably under the age of 22, which is pretty crazy. So can we talk about how Tigress is Snow's cousin? What?
I know. Tigress from Mockingjay.
Did I miss something in Mockingjay?
No, it comes so out of left field, I feel like.
It is so out of left field. I was just like, oh, it's you. What?
Yeah. She hasn't done any of her body dysmorphia stuff, so she doesn't look like a tiger in this, obviously, because it's 60 years prior.
But what happened?
Well, right now, she's on the verge, or maybe has already sold her own body, which gross that eventually Snow uses that for other people, like the victors and stuff. I mean, in general, gross anyways, but his cousin literally is keeping a roof over their head because their demented grandma or whatever can't help, and he's just a boy.
Yeah, he's a senior in high school. And there's only so much that they can do to be respectable, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I meant, what happened in that? How do we go from this is literally the only person that I truly care about to Snow living in a mansion and she lives off this rinky-dink shop in a low-income portion of the city? I have so many questions.
Yeah, I assume that it's her choice.
I feel like at least a bit of it is because she helps the rebels kill her cousin.
Yeah, I like to think that over the course of the next 50 years, I assume that Snow, because Tigress does sewing and stuff for him, I assume that she eventually gets made some kind of stylist and hates it so much and is so whatever that she transforms her body into a tiger so that she's ugly to look at and he's sick of looking at her. Then she just gets kind of banished.
Yeah.
Gets to just live her life and sew clothes and be her own little cat person.
So many questions.
And then eventually help the rebels. But that is not canon. That's just what I believe.
That is a guesstimation.
Yeah, pretty accurate. I'm going to believe it.
So yeah, that just was out of left field for me, which it sounds like it was just out of left field. A little part of me was like, am I dumb? Did I completely miss something?
No, he could have had a cousin that's not named and not in the Hunger Games series at all, and it still would have been impactful. But the fact that it leaves the readers trying to guess how we got from point A to point B, that the author does a clever thing with that by making her somebody that we should have looked out for.
Yeah.
But also, even if she's a cat, she looks good in the movie. She does not look 85. Like, he looks like a grumpy old, disgusting old man.
Yeah.
And she does look older, but not 85.
Oh, more than 85, because she would have been older than him.
Yeah, she's a little bit older than him, yeah.
That's crazy. I have not seen any of the movies, so I cannot help with that.
I know. I just can't help comparing. Are you waiting until you're done with all 5 of the books and then just going to watch them all? You have to watch them is the thing.
I do. I am just bad at watching things, honestly. There's no reason. I just haven't done it yet.
Well, let's watch all 3 of them in the same weekend and then do the other 2. Because you can put some space between those. But I feel like the first 3,
yeah,
you got to do them.
You got to do them. They're pretty close together.
Well, I think it's 4 movies, but like the first 3 books.
That's pretty exciting. I also love how from the very beginning he says, if I don't get a handle on my obsessive thinking, it will be my downfall. Because yes, it was.
Got him.
He's so aware, alas.
One of my biggest complaints, and I know you're eventually going to watch this movie, so this is just for the people who've read and watched, you don't get any of his thoughts, basically, because obviously it's a movie.
No, that makes the whole book.
And that was the biggest complaint, specifically for me, but probably other people, because he seems kind of like an okay guy.
That's the whole point.
And it ruins so much for me that honestly the movie's trash. And I hate to say it because...
You love it, yeah.
Yeah.
You love the series. It makes sense. You would want it to be good.
Yeah. But it makes the book so much better because all the internal dialogue and all of his back and forth, like you see a little bit because the actor tries to do eye movements.
Facial stuff.
All the deception.
Yeah.
And he's trash the whole time, but you only kind of see, and then I guess it gives it more of a twist when he turns on everybody, but it's like, no, he's literally been plotting and thinking and overthinking and trying to be conniving, and instead it comes off as, well, I'm just a boy and I lucked into some of this, and I'm just keeping my family fed, and you feel bad for him in the movie. If you only watch the movie, I get it. I'm still not over the thirst traps, but guys, read the book.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because the whole point of it is how you can tell he's holding back from being a lunatic. This whole book is a journey of a narcissist going off the deep end. And the whole point is that he is manipulative, that he is, like, he has all of these terrible thoughts, and then you see the disconnect between his thoughts and his actions, where he's like, well, I want them to assume this about me, so I'm going to do these actions, or, well, I didn't like that that's how they took that, but maybe it's a good thing they think I'm a better person than I am, and all this. And the back and forth he has with Lucy, where sometimes, oh my goodness, she's the greatest woman that ever existed, she's the love of my love, she's mine. And then with the ending where he goes back into that obsessive paranoia, there's so many times in the book where he just sounds like a paranoid psycho, but he reins it back in as soon as he's like, oh, okay, it's not that. Never mind. No, she is the love of my life. She isn't awful. And then you get to the end and one thing happens and he just goes off the deep end. And it's so important to have that. That's the whole reason the book is interesting. Otherwise, it would be better from Lucy Gray's point. But the whole point is that he's awful. And the point is you need to get his thoughts to realize he's awful, to really understand how we got where we got. Ah, that's lame.
Yeah, they missed the mark by a lot. I'm kind of afraid for this new movie coming out for Hamish's story.
Yeah.
Because that's what the other prequel is. I'm so terrified that somehow it will also be as bad as this one was.
Because I feel like there could have been something they could do. Wasn't that a complaint about the Hunger Games too? Is that you don't get Katniss's thoughts, and so you just get a lot of action scenes, and if you didn't read the book, you wouldn't really understand what's going on or her motivations and stuff?
Yeah, but it's way worse than this one.
Yeah, because her actions are kind of part of the story, but this one, his thoughts are literally the story.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
With Katniss, you miss a little bit of the behind motivations and how she doesn't see herself as somebody worthy of everybody rallying around, but clearly they do and they love her. So you get to see in the book how I don't even know how to describe it. I think we talked about it last time, but how disjointed her thoughts are.
Yeah.
Just because she's just one of those girls who just doesn't, I don't know, her self-worth or whatever. Like
a portion of it, I want to call it imposter syndrome, but it's not even imposter syndrome. She doesn't feel like an imposter. She just honestly doesn't understand. She's like, why are you doing this? This makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But it's worse. It's been.
In Songbirds and Snakes, it's so rough because the whole point is we see how calculating and manipulative Snow is. And we all already knew that, obviously, from the interactions she has with Katniss 60 years later.
Yeah, but we do get a big portion of, like I said, my thing with him. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're destroying literally everything. Of course this is going to end. Why are you doing this? And then you get this book and you're like, oh, no, he's always been like this. He's always been this way.
Yeah. Well, and he gets a little bit of power, even in this class, because he's number 2 in the class or whatever, but he has to be number 1 to get a scholarship because he's poor, even though he's pretending he's not.
Yeah, he's trying to get a prize to pay for university because he thinks that's the only way they can get rich again.
Yeah, the plinth prize. And so he's brown-nosing and trying to be the best, and he unintentionally does so many good things.
Oh yeah, he straight up hates people, but he's like, I gotta be cool with them. And he's good at it. He's so good at it. It's so crazy.
He's such a car salesman.
Oh, he is.
Gross.
He would have made a really good salesman. You are correct.
I mean, he sold murder pretty good.
He decided to be a dictator instead. Or a president, quote unquote.
Yeah, I do like that there's some kind of line pretty early on. Because how do they become presidents?
I don't know.
Because by time the 50th, obviously he is. And obviously by the 74th. But they make some kind of comment about like, oh, what are you planning on doing? Just being president?
Well, his grandmother keeps saying, when Snow is president, this and this will happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, because we don't really get any of his background in the Hunger Games. And so all of this is pretty new. But he spends a couple months in the peacekeeping as an adult. He's a super successful mentor, but due to reasons we'll get into in a minute, they completely scrubbed the 10th Hunger Games from existence, which I was wondering, why didn't Katniss watch this when she was studying? And it's because it was erased. But he's a super successful mentor to a thing that no one's watching watching, so that's kind of part of the problem. But then he goes and spends several months as a peacekeeper, and then he goes to university, and we kind of get an epilogue where he's like, I'm doing great in university, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
We don't see in this book how he does it. I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, in Haymitch's game, he's already president, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we don't know.
But he's got 40 years to get there. Yeah.
So yeah, no clue.
Because Haymitch's is 50.
He sure hang on to it.
But he's got friends in high places, and he has that family, and once he gets his money back, he's got connections.
Yeah.
And he is top of his class by the end of this, and he does well.
The head game maker is obsessed with him. She has a lot of power.
And he's such a smooth talker. It does make sense that he ends up in power.
Oh, yeah. I just have so many questions how we got here. We definitely do confirm one of the things they kind of accuse him of is him poisoning people that he doesn't like. That's one of the things Felix says that Snow does. Confirmed. He does his first one on that dean, who is a bit of a Snape character. Like, he had an issue with his dad, but the dad died, and so now the dean's taking it out on Snow.
Higginbottom.
He's not in love with his mom, but...
Yeah.
And so it ends with Snow poisoning him. He definitely does that.
Snow lands on top.
Definitely a snake, as you were saying. But the book, in a large part, obviously, it's about Snow, but it's also about this tribute named Lucy Gray, who comes from the 12th district. She didn't technically live there in the 12th district. She's a member of a group called the Covey, who were very nomadic.
Covey.
And roamed around and sang their songs. But then at one point, I guess when the districts were being created, I'm not 100% sure when, but they were rounded up and they were basically like, you have to stay here now. So they do. And they perform at District 12, and that's how they make their money. They're musicians. But she gets called as a tribute. And the first thing you know about her is A, she gets called as a tribute, but B, she put something green down the dress of this other girl who come to find out is the mayor's daughter. And I thought it would be a frog because, you know, Appalachia. It's really easy to grab a frog, but no, it's a straight up snake.
She loves snakes.
I kind of respect that. Lucy's pretty sure she's the mayor's daughter's the reason her name got called. Okay, here's the tea. Lucy was dating this boy who was part of the Covey, and they're like, well, we need money, so the mayor's rich. Why don't you go see if the mayor's daughter wants piano lessons? And so he goes to give piano lessons to get money for their people. Like, it's a band of 6 of them total with the ex-boyfriend. Anyway, he goes, and then suddenly he's running around with the mayor's daughter. And then Lucy Gray's name gets called as a tribute. Messy.
Convenient.
Messy, 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 messy. But yeah, I have solid respect for that move, honestly. I don't think it was poisonous. I don't even think it bites her. But it scared the crap out of her. And you do meet her and you do learn that she is awful as well. But she gets called, and all the academy students that are doing the senior project get their tribute, and Snow's like, oh, well, this name Snow is really important. It's already showing District 1 and 2 kind of have the upper hand in these things, and so he's hoping to get 1 or 2, but instead he not only doesn't get one of the high power ones, he gets the girl of District 12, which has been kind of doing the worst. So he's convinced this is a slight against him, that the dean's doing it on purpose. Here's the thing. He is such an unreliable narrator that I was always shocked when he was right. He's just so paranoid about everyone and their intentions, and he thinks everyone's just like him, being manipulative and conniving and thinking 3 steps ahead and not acting as they would, but acting like other people expect them to. And so it really throws him for a loop when this other boy, who is the one who's the mentor for the boy from 2, Suzanne?
Sejanus, yeah.
Oh, nice! First time ever. First try.
That was good, yeah.
Sejanus is originally from District 2, but his dad made a lot of money in the war for arms dealing. Apparently Snow's also made money in the war, but it was District 13, so when it got bombed, they lost all their money, and that is why they're poor. But this guy, Sejanus, made a lot of money because his dad invested in District 2. They moved to the capital, and now they're acting all capital, but Snow's like, here's not capital, he's district. And it doesn't help that both Sejanus and his mom really wish they were back in District 2. But Sejanus sees a very empathetic view. He's like, I could have been a tribute. This could have been me. Any of these could be me. So this is awful. And so he has this ethical dilemma the entire book about it. And Snow is so done with it. He's always thrown for such a loop because a lot of the times I feel like he's able to predict other people pretty well. But every time with Sejanus, he is just completely surprised by everything he does. And a lot of times he thinks he's being a hypocrite or he's just being a dumb district person. Snow has no empathy. Let's get that out of the way. He does not. I checked with Caitlin to see if she had read this book already, to be like, please psychoanalyze this character. I don't think he's a psychopath because we've had this conversation with another character, and I don't think he's a psychopath because he cares about himself, and he is capable about caring for others. He cares about his grandma. He cares about Tigress. At times, he cares about Lucy Gray. At times, he seems to care for Sejanus legitimately and not just because his mother's a really good cook. So he's not a psychopath or a sociopath. But it's just really bloody bad narcissism and enabling that narcissism. But people don't even realize they're enabling it because his actions and his thoughts are so far apart. It's so crazy. But yes, I think it's just straight up true narcissism in a really, really bad way. Because, you know, there are plenty of narcissists in the world that are not going around murdering people at their convenience. So it's extra, but his thought processes are not normal.
Oh, I'd agree with that.
I feel like so much of his book can then be summed up with Snow has a crush on Lucy, but he doesn't trust him. And Snow's pretending to be friends with Sejanus because of what he can do for him, but Snow doesn't trust him. The Hunger Games happen and Lucy Gray turns out to be amazing and they don't have nearly enough cameras.
Basically.
The author's writing style has always impressed me by the fact that I never know what's happening. Sometimes something will happen at the end of the chapter and I'm like, did that just happen? For example, one of the things they do as mentor tribute is they go to the arena and show them around, right? And then one of the chapters just ends and it's like, and a bomb goes off. And I flipped the page and I was like, did that legitimately happen? Yes, it did. A bomb goes off.
Yes, it did.
And here's the thing. They blame it on the rebels, right? They blame it on the districts, right? All right, I just read an entire book by a paranoid conspiracy theorist. Hear me out. And I can't be the only one that thinks this, so you can tell me if this is the general agree. I think Dr. Gall did it.
Oh, she a crazy one.
I think she, like I said, is desperate for these games to continue. And obviously there's a lot of apathy towards the games, even in the capital. So that's going to throw off maybe the games were being talked about, maybe won't continue this. This cost a lot of money because at this time the government is paying for these. They cost a lot of money. No one's watching it. We can be done with this. And so in her attempt to be like, no, the war's still going on, I absolutely 100% think Dr. Gall planted those bombs. Because why on earth would the rebels know when they were going to tour the arena? If they were going to plant bombs, they could have done it at literally any time. But magically it happens when it's being toured by the tributes and the mentors because, oh my gosh, capital people are still being killed by the rebels. We still need to punish them. We need to... I think Dr. Gall did it.
Dun, dun, dun.
There's my conspiracy theory. Is that a popular one or am I treading fresh ground 6 years later?
I've never seen it, but also there's 6,000 conspiracy theories and different whatevers. The biggest one is a lot of people think that Lucy Gray is Greasy Say in the Hunger Games books. Crippled old lady with the granddaughter that lives in 12. They believe it. There's no proof. She does wander off into the woods, and it would make sense she would go back home to 12, even though she's a covey.
That does sound very strongly like, Felix didn't die. What are you talking about? Lucy didn't die. She's alive.
I out, but it's a lot of people.
Well, if we were going to lead credence to it, at the end of the book, District 12, you're not allowed to perform music at the Hob anymore, which is how they were making their money, right? And so she would need to have a new income stream of some sort. It would make sense she would go back to the Hob where there are so many people that would know her. And it would explain why she took a liking to Katniss, and at the end of the third book even goes back and takes care of Katniss seemingly for no reason.
Yeah. The other theory, which I believe that one more than this other one, is a lot of people for some reason think that she's Coin, that Lucy Gray just goes to 13.
No.
And becomes the evil Coin? Are you kidding me?
No.
That's the stupidest one I've heard. Your theory's pretty good.
Thank you.
And I like the Greasy Say one. Pretty solid. Reasonable.
Yeah, if she was going to be alive, I could see that.
Yeah. Because it's unclear at the end, because spoilers, she wins the Hunger Games because Snow helps her cheat, basically.
And she's just really good at it.
Some of it is her own cunning, but he does also slip in poison for her.
Yeah, he gives her a compact that his mom left and is like, hey, a token for you to remember me, and it doesn't have anything in it. And then he does kind of point out, like, oh, I don't remember exactly how he says it. He doesn't straight up come out and say it, but it's like, oh yeah, you know, that poison rat powder that's everywhere, that stuff, right? And so he's kind of like, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, get some of that rat poison and slip it into people's food. See, that was one of the things where he's like, she uses it several times, and he keeps being like, yeah, she totally poisoned people. And so I was a little bit wondering if we were going to get to the other end, and nope, she didn't. He just thought she did all these horrible things because he thinks whatever, but no, she didn't do it in the end. Like I said, he's such an unreliable narrator that I was always shocked when he was right.
Yeah. Well, and Lucy Gray is a much more, I wish we had her POV, honestly, or at least a little bit more, because you get a little bit of her thoughts, but it's all through Snow.
Yeah. Here's my thoughts. There's a lot of times where the tributes just disappear. And I know the Hunger Games is all written in one POV, but it would have been nice to maybe during those parts, instead of just being like, well, we're bored, maybe switching over to Lucy Gray. Maybe not when it happens, but maybe, I don't know, sometime in part 3, maybe, or even at the end. But yeah, I agree. Having her POV would have been really, really nice.
Well, and it is annoying because so far of the 5 books that this author has done, all of them have centered around District 12 victors. We don't technically get Peeta's POV, but we get so much Katniss that he's included in a lot of that. We get a full book on Haymitch, and then this book about Lucy Gray, but we don't get her thoughts. And so I guess that'll be my question for the author later. But I don't know. She's such a complex character versus Katniss, who's very straightforward and just didn't quite understand what was happening. Unreliable, but in a, I don't know, not narcissistic way.
Yeah.
She just doesn't understand what's going around her. But Lucy Gray understands everything.
Yeah.
Or it seems that she does. Like, she's super aware that the mayor's daughter set her up. She's super aware that she's probably not coming back. She makes all those jokes about, oh, I'm singing my last song, singing for my supper. I'm already used to this. She points out that she's not from 12. She's Covey, which are kind of like a band of nomads that got trapped in 12. And so she's super aware of all of that. And she kind of understands what Snow is trying to do for her, because he's the first, and for a while, he's the only mentor who comes and visits them, because the tributes are in a zoo while they're waiting. Like, they're not in the fancy hotels getting the lush life. They're literally treated worse than they were at home. They're treated like animals. So by the time they get to the 74th games, it's, oh no, it's a special perk. You want to be a victor, so you want to do well in the Hunger Games. Gives them motivation. But in the 10th games, they don't care about these people at all. And so Lucy sees what he's trying to do a little bit more. And I wish we had more of her POV to see how actually smart and clever she is.
And her motivations.
You see what he knows. Yeah, the motivations too.
Yeah, because we very briefly mentioned that they're talked about this, but yeah, they get brought into the city on train. They're basically treated like animals. They're in this smelly train compartment. They get there. They're immediately taken to the monkey house of the zoo, where they aren't fed for days. No food, no water. People just looking at them gawking, and then they're going to throw them into the arena, which is crazy to think about. But it makes sense why they went the way that that they eventually ended up going because of the betting process of the gambling. They want good tributes and not just because most of the people die before this thing begins. They start with 24 tributes, but by the time it actually starts, I think there's only 14 tributes, and several of them in the Hunger Games succumb to illnesses or weakness or whatever that they got kind of from conditions before even going into the games. And so the amount of people that actually died in the games are less than 10, which is so crazy when you consider the other one. Oh, that's what it is. The host is Flickerman, which I'm pretty sure it's like the dad or maybe the grandpa of Caesar Flickerman that actually does the interviews and is good at his job. This guy isn't.
Oh, Lucky Flickerman.
But he's the one that comes up with there should be something on the scoreboard or something so people know if someone's died. And so by the Hunger Games, there's a canon when someone dies, and at the end, every night you see an image of who died. And so they're able to keep track of that.
Yeah. They're working out a lot of the kinks that eventually turn into the spectacle that is the Hunger Games. But this 10th game is very rough. I, in my brain, cannot even fathom how the first one happened.
I was thinking the same thing.
For this to be the 10th one and there's still so many problems, how did it keep happening? We're 10 years in, guys.
Taxpayer dollars.
Yeah. And they could have done 10 and just been like, okay, that's it. You guys learned your lesson. Why? Why did these continue?
Yeah.
To punish the districts. Yeah, we got that. But what do you mean?
Yeah. But turning back around to your point with Lucy, because of the kind of, oh my goodness, Snow hates Katniss because of his ex-girlfriend. I was legitimately like, is this unrecorded? Is she just saying whatever the heck she needs to say to get alive? And then he gets to the end and then he realizes, oh, she never loved me. And that's why he's such a hater, which is a little too pop culture for the intense hatred with which he destroys his country to get back at this one teenage girl. But no, she does love him, which is almost worse.
Yeah, I don't know if it's love, but yeah, they definitely trauma bond together.
She has a thing for him.
Yeah, oh no, for sure. Okay, so the games are such a minimal part of this book. She wins it with a little help from cheating.
Yeah, like we said, there's so much of it that's we can't see anything that's going on. So it really is so little.
And so much prepping before and talking to the tributes and doing that and a lot of Snow's home life. And then the Hunger Games happen so briefly. And then she wins and they just send her back to 12. She's not instantly turned into a prostitute. They don't have mentors. The victors don't have to go back and mentor these other kids at this point.
Yeah.
Because there's only been 10 winners. So she just gets to go home. So she's singing and back in the band and living her life. And Snow becomes a peacekeeper.
Before we get there, just really quick. So he has to join the peacekeepers because he gets caught cheating. He does a couple of things, like he feeds them, which they were like, we'll look past that. But he gave the compact with the poison and they were going to overlook that. But there's this one point where there's this whole plot about snakes.
They're the mutation snakes. They're scent driven.
If they are used to your scent, they won't attack you. But if they're not used to your scent, they will attack you. And he gets a chance to throw in this handkerchief that has her scent on it. And so the snakes don't end up attacking her. And so I think that's what eventually did it. I think the game master would have looked past literally anything but the snakes.
Oh, yeah. Well, because those were her babies. And because they sent those snakes in to kill everybody. Like, to kill Lucy Gray, to get it done with.
Yeah, because of the bombings, I'm pretty sure, which once again, really convenient that you've been making these snakes for so long that you can just so happen to use at this perfect opportune time in the games. I'm just saying, it seems very premeditated. So the second part ends with, and I went and joined the Peacekeepers. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes back to District 12 because of it. And so he can see her singing and whatnot. Continue.
Lucy Gray, she lights up when she sees him and is singing this song, and it's so cute. And so Janus comes with him. He becomes a peacekeeper too. And they have this secret mission, or maybe not secret, but they have to go and get all of the Mockingjays back.
So what happened was...
The Jabberjays, Mockingjays, yeah.
Yeah, so we know about the whole Jabberjays and Mockingjay situation, and so that is recent, and so Jabberjays are still alive. But during one, there's a hanging, he goes there, he's like, the Mockingjays freak me out. The Jabberjays are fine. I know that we created them. They're basically capital, but how dare the Mockingjays exist without control? He's got a problem. It's so blatant, which I know it was written like this because obviously she's the Mockingjay, so he needs to hate the Mockingjays, but let's pretend it was written the other way around. It's like, oh my goodness, the foreshadowing. No wonder he hates Katniss being the Mockingjay, blah, blah, blah. But he hates it, and so he's like, let's shoot them. And then the Citadel people, the people that are in charge of who created these, in fact, the scientist who created them goes there and is like, no, we should get some samples. And so they want 50 Mockingjays and 50 Jabberjays, and so that's how we get here.
Yeah, but then like nothing happens for a good chunk of the book again.
Yes, and it's just great. He goes out there and it's fun, and Janus is losing his mind and possibly becoming a rebel, which I do find it's very interesting how indoctrinated Snow gets, that he thinks anything district is rebel, because what happens is Sejanus gets approached by these people. Okay, the dude got hanged. He was like, run away, Liz, and then she gets arrested and they want to hang her too. And so the brother of this woman approaches him, is like, hey, help her escape. And Snow immediately goes, oh, you're a rebel, you're with the rebels, blah, 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 blah. And so I think that's a really interesting framing that they're not really rebelling against anything. They literally just want to go north and do their own thing. But Snow's immediately like, you're rebels, you're gonna whatever.
Yeah, you can't leave because they told you can't leave.
Yeah.
Get it?
But related to that, Lucy Gray is the one who writes the Hanging Tree song. That was pretty cool.
That's why Snow hates it so much. And she's singing it when anybody sings it.
Yeah.
Honestly, any music in 12 is hidden and forbidden.
But yeah, like you said, we're just hanging out in District 12 to the point I just Googled it and I was like, is Suzanne Collins from Appalachia? And that's why she's writing so much about District 12? No, she's from Connecticut.
They're all District 12.
She moved to New York for a while. She went to Indiana for college, I think for her undergrad. And then she lives in Connecticut again.
She's just given us some little lore. Here's all of the backstory you might possibly need to know about Katniss for later.
Let's see, where's that map we found?
Here's where she lived 50 years earlier. No, and I don't know if it's because Snow as a whole, this book kind of slows down.
Yeah.
And then picks back up again really fast. Because with Katniss's books, like there are duller moments, but I feel like the pacing on that one was a little bit better. All three of those books as a whole, or maybe because this is just one slightly longer book versus a whole trilogy.
Yeah.
It does feel like more dead air. So then eventually at the nearly end.
I will say most of these maps seem to agree that probably Connecticut is in District 13 and got bombed if it didn't sink into the ocean because the ocean levels rose. So maybe that's why she's not writing about Connecticut. It doesn't exist.
I do love that she just stuck to 12 because all 5 books are about it.
I'd be down to look at another district.
It's interesting. Yeah.
All we really saw was 11 in Catching Fire and barely that. So yeah, I'd be down to see somewhere else.
And you learn a little bit about 7 and 4, but she doesn't really go there. None of them really do.
I'm just saying, Finnick's year, I think people would be down for a Finnick book.
Oh, for sure. Prequel, sequel, anything. Well, sequel would be harder, but...
But we get to the end because Sejanus tells Snow his plan, and Snow records it on Jabberjay, and that gets sent to the Capitol. So they get the message, and Sejanus is hung. But before that happens, there's a double homicide with Lucy's ex-boyfriend and the mayor's daughter. And so Snow is a part of it. He's the one who ends up killing the mayor's daughter. So he's freaking out, and he's he's like, any day they're gonna come for me. And so at one point, Lucy Gray's like, oh, I'm gonna run away with the others. I'm just gonna go north. I'll get a bunch of food. And they say there might be people north. So let's just go and just be away from here because the mayor's gonna kill me because he thinks that I killed the mayor's daughter. And even though I have an alibi, she was there, but she was able to get back on stage and perform. So even though I have an alibi, he thinks I did it. So I have to run away. And so Snow's like, yeah, let me do the exact same thing until he finds out that this incriminating piece of evidence that he was worried about isn't even in the city. They find it in the house by the lake, which is the same house by the lake Katniss goes to. And he finds it and he gets rid of it. And he's like, cool, I can go back to society. This man.
Yeah, he's always looking out for number one.
Here's the line. Here's what I had to screenshot and send people. So when he thinks he has to leave the districts in Panem, he says he knew this would be easier if he wasn't such an exceptional person. The bright and brightest humanity had to offer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thinks a little highly of himself.
Wow. Oh, just wow. I don't know what else to say there. So anyway, he decides that he's going to be like, okay, I'm going to go tell her we can go back to the city. And then just randomly, he's like, I'm going to murder her.
Yeah.
What? He just so quickly devolves into paranoia that she's doing this, she's doing that. This orange scarf that he gave her was on this bush and a snake attacked me, but the snake didn't even bite him. Oh, it bit him, but he's not poisonous or anything. And so he just, and granted, he was gonna kill her before the snake thing happened, but she's, which, baby girl, maybe don't if you think he's a homicidal maniac, but maybe she didn't. Maybe she was just singing the song. Who knows? He's an unreliable narrator. But she sings part of the Hanging Tree song and the Mockingjays pick it up and he just gets so upset with it. He just turns in a circle firing bullets from a shotgun.
Yeah, he looked crazy.
And you kind of knew it was going to happen because you find out she's named after a song called Lucy Gray, where it's like, oh, did she die? Or did she just become a ghost? Or did she live on and it's okay? And it's ambiguous. And so she also has an ambiguous end because he's like, well, I never heard about her ever again, but I didn't exactly go back to 12 looking for her. So yeah, I can see how people are like, no, she's this other character in Hunger Games, but I don't know, when there's always an ominous choice like this, did they die? Yes, that's always how it is for me. I'm like, yes, they did. Like the Giver, yeah, they died.
See, I always think they live.
I'm always like, they died. Don't ambiguity me, they died.
Nah.
That's so funny that you're like, yeah, they live.
Yeah, you don't know. Maybe they did.
Maybe they did.
She just went and lived in the woods. She was resourceful.
So he goes back and he took this officer test. He passed. And so he's supposed to go to District 2 to begin officer training. He's like, oh, maybe I'll go up in the military. And you're like, maybe that is how he becomes president. It's not unheard of for generals to become presidents. And then no. Dr. Gall's just like, I hope you had a good summer. Anyway, get your butt to university. You got class. So yeah, he gets an honorable discharge from the Peacekeepers and he starts studying at the university. He starts helping make the Hunger Games more watchable. He also comes up with a district gift where if your tribute wins, you get food for a year, and then creating the Victor's Village where they live afterwards. Yeah, you're so right. Like so many of the things just come up by Snow.
Yeah, he had a vision.
But his money troubles are over because he becomes the Plymouth heir, and Plymouth is the parents of Sejanus, and they think, oh, you were such a good friend with him, even though you're totally the reason he died. But we were such a good friend with him that you're now our heir. You know, you lost your parents, we lost our son. Let's just make you a heir. And so they buy the apartment so they don't even have to move out of it. They pay for all of his university, and they pay for money in his pocket and all of this stuff. And yeah, like I said, he kills the dean by poisoning him. Well, dang. And no one knows what happened to Lucy Gray. Ambiguous. I like your theory, though. If I was going to say that she lived, that sounds like a really fun theory.
But also, Lucy Gray, Greasy Say, it rhymes. Probably is her. Who knows?
I like it. Let's go with it.
It's a solid conspiracy.
New handcanon. It can't be headcanon because the author didn't write it. Shush. Finnick is alive.
So true.
General thoughts. The narcissism. It's one part baffling, one part, oh, this makes a lot of sense with your personality, one part, this is actually terrifying. Legitimately. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this one was kind of rough.
Yeah, in that way.
It's a fascinating train wreck that you just can't look away from. You know it's bad, and you know it's not leading anywhere good, but you just can't stop reading it.
No, you can't. It's just, the other 3 books had such commentary on like society and war as a concept and retribution and all that stuff. And then this one is just very specifically about this one man.
Yeah, it's a villain origin story, and it was kind of whenever like Maleficent and stuff like that were popular and different things where it's, oh, maybe people really do want to see all of this. I mean, she doesn't humanize him at all.
No.
The movie unfortunately does, but I don't know. I wish it had been Lucy Gray's point of view instead, or half and half, a good mix. I'd settle for that.
Yeah, just her thoughts on a couple of times. That would be really nice. I do, like, as a village and origin story, I like this one better than Fairest, who is also an unrepentant narcissist dictator that's murdering everyone.
Sure enough, from the Lunar Chronicles.
Yeah, that one came out in like, holy crap. That one also came out in 2020. That one came out in October 2020.
I told you, they were just kind of trying to humanize them a little bit.
But not, because neither of those are humanized. Both of those books are, no, they're worse than you think.
Yeah.
You thought there was redeemable qualities in them? No, there's not. We are going to make you reread the final book and be like, no, yeah, you needed to die. Oh my goodness. Now you do got me questioning Coin. I'm like, what? Coin origin story? What? Where did you come from?
See, I don't care about her.
I don't want a book about her, but I want a book. There's someone around her, and that's the narrator. I don't want her as the narrator, but I do want to know I do have some Coin questions. One question for the author, favorite bluegrass ballad? She writes and comes up with some of her own, but there are definitely some in the book that are just straight up classics. Clementine, which is sung over and over again. And then I'm pretty sure Lucy Gray is also...
She's a poem. That's the thing. They're all poems or ballads, all of the Covey names. Their first name is from a poet or a line in a poem. And then also the next name is a color.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a song. It is a poem.
I think she's a poem, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 1799 William Wordsworth poem, Lucy Gray. So that one's not a song, but they turn it into a song. But
every single one of these books, the author makes up a song and has a character sing it for some reason. And I do the audiobooks usually. It's fun.
Do they actually sing it?
Some of them do, and some of them do more of the sing talk thing where it's very clearly still happening.
Sing speak. Yeah. So she's clearly tapped into it a little bit. So I'd be curious. She's listened to it. She's clearly inspired by it. So I'd just be really curious what her favorite ballad would be. Maybe it's one of them in the books, maybe it's not.
Good question. Oh, I've asked it 40 times, but why didn't we get any of Lucy Gray's point of view?
I'm wondering if she was worried it would just be Katniss 2.0.
Yeah, because I mean, even in the next one, it's just Haymitch, but at least he's from the district.
Yeah.
So the fact that she did 5 of these books, and they're all about 12, and this is the only one.
That's technically about the Capitol.
But he also is such a narcissist that it's like he needed his own.
Yeah.
We don't want to see somebody falling in love with Snow. Ew, gross. So I get it.
Yeah, it would be really sad to see her perspective in a lot of things, because she trusted him clearly.
Yeah. I mean, she asked him to run away with her.
Oh.
That was my question, though.
But it would be nice to have a couple of chapters from her perspective. But nope, she remains a mystery, just like she was to him.
Dun, dun, dun.
Probably something very poetic in that. Rating. Waiting for the other shoe to drop out of 10. You know he's the villain. You know he's awful. Yeah, this stuff happens. Like, yeah, he joins the Peacekeepers. That was kind of shocking. But you know he does something to, like, he's not just this destitute whatever. You know he doesn't go north. What happens? How did we get here? What is going on? I don't know, but you know it's coming. You know he doesn't leave this this book thoroughly in love with Lucy Gray. She's the reason he hates Katniss. What happened? The entire book was just me going, oh, is this it? Is this the reason? No, it's not. So is this it? The entire book.
I'm gonna give it a too many thoughts, not enough thoughts out of 10, because he has more thoughts than anybody else needs to in the entire world.
It's a pretty long book, too. I think it's the longest of the series so far. I don't know about the Haymitch book, but I was surprised how long it was.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. You read the Hunger Games trilogy every year.
Basically, yeah.
How many times have you reread this book, though, since it came out?
This one I've only done once, and then I'm pretty sure. And then I did Haymitch's twice since it came out.
So you reread it once, or you only read it once?
I read it, and then I reread it when Haymitch's book came out in last April. So I did this one in 22. So not even when it came out.
Because this is where I'm at for if I would read this again. And when I first read the Hunger Games and Catching Fire, I was like, heck yeah, I want to read this again. When I read Mockingjay, I was like, I want to read this again, but I need my heart to heal a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I still want to read it again. Just maybe once a year is a good amount. But it's not even that it's a bad book, but I'm stuck on like, probably I'll reread this, and maybe I'll do like what you do, where it's like, oh, this new book is coming out, let me reread all of them. But other than that, I really don't want to reread Snow's POV. If somehow we could magically have this book, but then when you reread it a second time, it's all from Lucy's perspective, I would definitely reread this. But I don't know.
Yeah, unless the author comes out with a 6th book and I reread as a series, I probably won't read this one again.
I could see myself stopping with the trilogy.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say I wouldn't read it, because there's nothing where I'm like, oh, this is so obviously flawed or something. Not even that I didn't enjoy it. I still enjoyed it. I think I still gave it 5 stars, just because I would still recommend this to somebody else. But the reread is up in the air right now.
Yeah. Honestly, I probably would do the original 3 and Haymitch's again together, still all 4. But I don't know if I would add this one in.
It's tough.
Well, it's tough. The characters are either long dead or barely sort of in Haymitch's, barely, basically not in Katniss's. It's just so much time passes between this one and the actual core series that it's, why should I care about these people?
You're not really missing anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not a happy ending, because we know what happens. But apparently it was worse, just like with Ferris.
Well, and the problem is because it takes so long, because at least Haymitch's book, there's like a 25 year gap between that and the series. But that's manageable. Okay. It sucks that things are still bad by the time Katniss gets around, but okay. But this is 60 years. That's a long time.
Listen to a narcissist rant for 500 pages.
It can't get better.
Here's my thing. If I was going to reread it, I would not read it like, oh, read Snow's first, because this is book 0. I would read it Hunger Games, Catching Fire, then this book, and then Mockingjay.
Ooh.
Kind of the same thing with Lunar Chronicles, where you read the first 3 books, then you read Ferris, which is the villain origin, and then you read Winter, which has the villain dying. I think that would be a better setup for me mentally, because yeah, he kind of wins, but then you know he's about to die in Mockingjay, so it makes it a little bit better.
Ooh. I might need to try that. But honestly, it will depend on probably if they make more books.
Yeah. So, we haven't read Haymitch's book yet, but favorite of the series so far?
I think still Catching Fire.
Catching Fire is just really good for me. It has all the good things in the first book, but better.
Yeah. Extra characters, too, that you know that end up living.
Yeah.
Hunger Games is such a bummer because there's like 4 characters in District 12, and then everybody else is in the Hunger Games and they die.
Yeah, with that one we get Johanna and we get Finnick and all of those characters, and we lose some really good ones too, but we do keep a lot more in Catching Fire. And I don't know, seeing the districts, and I really like Catching Fire. I agree. I think that's my favorite. If I was like, I can only read one Hunger Games book, it would be that one.
Yeah. I mean, it still has some of the star-crossed lover stuff, but I genuinely think you probably could just pick that book up and she would have to add a tiny bit more of foreshadowing, or a little, oh God, what is the other word? My mind is blanking. I'm so tired.
Yeah, the opposite of foreshadowing or the same thing?
Yeah, flashbacks. There we go.
Yeah.
But you could do Catching Fire without anything else, I think.
I wouldn't go that far. You'd probably be very confused. A little bit about stuff, because they do reference so much stuff, and Rue's such a big part of the first part, and I don't think you'd get the emotional whatever, but I think it's a good feelers if you've read all of them and you're just like, go back to that one. I think that one would satisfy you pretty well.
True enough.
But have you read this book? Were you expecting this prequel 10 years later out of nowhere? A book written. Kind of crazy. Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you like the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes with us. Join us next time when we'll be covering How Far I'll Go by Kayla Kindle. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Danielle.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape With Me Book Club is a Lunar Skulk production. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.